All right, guys, this is part 2 of an epic 2-part Coach's Corner podcast episode. So please, if you have not downloaded part 1, head to iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening, and download episode 1 of this, part 1, or you're going to miss out on a lot and have no clue what we're talking about in the rest of this episode. So without further ado, let's get into the second episode. And real quick, just to catch you up on things, we wrapped up our final talk on myths, Dr. Jordan Peterson, a little bit of Joseph Campbell as well, the hero's journey, and why these things are important to us in life, important to us as coaches and fitness people as well, and writers. But we wrapped it up with Aadam talking a little bit about the Matrix and why the Matrix is the same story as the book of Genesis, but retold in a modern way, and how that correlates to the hero's journey, to living a more virtuous and moral life. So now we're going to get into the rest of the episode where we dive a little bit deeper into all of that. Again, if you've not listened to part 1, head to wherever you download your episodes and check out part 1 first.
Step up and you gotta get it fitness. Host Rob at the moment and the quest is you gotta check it and wreck it. You're breaking personal records and with the help of the guests you won't be guessing on the lessons. That's a +5 fierce. Got a low-key bamf right here. You wanna meet him, there's no better way to greet him than to strike a boss pose. Take a look into the mirror.
Sort of where this all sort of goes into, and it applies to, to sort of all of life, is that you're right. You have to go through hell. You have to go through that dark area. You're not going to get what you want without experiencing some pain. C3PO says it when they land on Tatooine is, we seem to be made to suffer. I guess that's our lot in life. And Peterson has a podcast episode where he talks about that, and that, as human beings, we will suffer in our lives. And if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to suffer because you can't, go out and, drink 8 beers at the bar and then order $12 worth of Taco Bell. You're going to suffer because your muscles are going to be sore. You're going to, suffer because you have to make these changes. Same thing if you're scared of hitting on a girl and you don't do it. You're going to have to suffer rejection. You know what? I'll just stay at home and play video games instead. I don't want to go talk to girls. Oh, look, Tinder. I don't even have to talk to them. I have a phone to protect me. We have to suffer in some way, but suffering brings about change and healing. So I guess the question now is, how do you use myths, or how do you use myths in your own life to sort of ease yourself into suffering and not run from it?
I literally just, I find various ones. I'm a big fiction reader. And I'm but I'm also I don't know, I own 6 different Campbell books and have listened to every lecture he's given. So, I find the ones that at that moment are speaking to me. I told y'all, I just rewatched all of Harry Potter, and part of the reason I wanted to do that was because I've been thinking a lot about that series lately. And so as of late, right now, with my move to New York and whatever I'm going to be going through and everything, it's just all kind of viewed through the lens of okay, what did Harry have to go through? How does it fit within that cycle? And it's just, framing it that way to keep on going and keep on moving and realize that that's why as I've read the books, I don't know how many times, 4 or 5, and seen the movies multiple times. Number 5 has become increasingly my favorite part, because it's whenever it's when Harry flips the switch, and when he realizes I can no longer be this victim character of Voldemort and this lot in life that I have, and I've got to go seek out the end. Even if that means that I'm going to die in the process, that's okay. I'll do that.
Right.
And that to me is at this moment what speaks to me the most. At times it's Star Wars. A few years ago, it was Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. I'm sure it'll change in a few years, but yeah.
I know for me, it's usually always Star Wars. Right now, it's just with like the self-destruction sort of thing that's been in my head. It's been a lot of like Thanos and Marvel comic books. But I know, and even video games really like, I guess you can't like, there's no ordinary world for Mario, until there kind of is, there kind of isn't. But like Zelda is the perfect world for that. Like, oh look, right. I'm this kid, I'm Link, and my dad goes away and I have to like, I'm in this ordinary world and oh shit, everything goes wrong, or oh, I'm in Kokiri Village, or Kokiri Village. And you're doing like, that's your world. That's where you live. You get this introduction. You got to go through the stuff. You get a sword. Then you go, to the Great Deku Tree, and there's all these things that happen. Video games follow that very well, and of course other games, in that. But like that's where I view the hero's journey, and that's what teaches me is like, okay, where is so and so in this story? What are they going against? And Westworld, fuck, dude, Westworld has sent me so far down that black hole. And I don't care if we're at an hour, we're going to keep going. I'll turn it into a 2-part, unless you guys got to leave. But Westworld is so good because it's all about like the maze. The maze is where they finally find their cognitive abilities and are able to think and not be robots. But the maze, if you look at it, is the Vitruvian Man. And where's the inside? It's on the inside of the man. Then you could throw out some symbolism stuff like, the third eye, the Triforce, the triangle is in the center, Masons, all this like crazy symbolic stuff that made my mind go places. But even all of that symbolism is really just telling the same thing, that the answer to what you're looking for is in your mind. It's within. That's where you have to go to find your freedom. Fighting the dragon, it's within. The Death Star, within. Ganondorf, within. But yeah, Westworld's been the one that's really sent me over the edge on that. And Adam said his is the Matrix. Nick, do you have sort of myth?
I think mine's not even the Matrix, to be honest. Mine's a lot more. You guys will be like, oh, whatever, but mine's a lot more darker than that. I recently finished reading a great trilogy, The Emperor's Blades. That's like part 1. But anyways, one of the main characters is this kid called Valin, who starts off like, just normal kid. And then he goes through the hero's journey and some things happen and he becomes really negative, really miserable. And then he meets the mentor figure who sees that, he has potential. And he reminds him of why he needs to go face his dragon per se, and then he goes back into the real world to face that dragon. So I think it's that thing where I think it's a lot more applicable to me. That's how I thought I saw myself in that character a lot. But it's the whole thing of it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns, but at the end of the day, it's still about facing the truth and still, striving to do the best that you can and not try and run away from it.
Yeah. Nick, do you have books or myths or something that always sort of speaks to you?
I think like Tanner kind of nailed it. Like, there's always like almost like a different one at different points of your life for whatever reason. Or if you go reread the same book, there are different bits and pieces of it that speak out to you for different reasons,
Yep.
If I went back, like I read Harry Potter growing up, like if I went back and read it now, I would take something totally different from it than I did then. So like right now I'm reading the King Killer Chronicle. I just finished the first book, Name of the Wind. And it's kind of weird because the main character, his name is Quoth. He is almost like too gifted that sometimes he's hard to like, I don't know, resonate with or whatever. But there's a lot of things he goes through or struggles with or whatever that do kind of speak to me. Like he's kind of a shit talker, and I have trouble not shit talking also.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but like someone talks shit and I cannot help myself. I don't know why. So it's like different things at different times. I think one that I still, which I've mentioned twice now, that I still use things from that have taught me something is just The Alchemist. Like understanding signs and in what I took out of it, like feelings that I know, like when I'm afraid of something, that I should do it. And that's like, it's like that girl that I've been dating, and this is lame. So, but after our first date, I dropped her off, and I thought about like kissing her and stuff like that, but I was like afraid to do it. You know, like what if she turns me down? What if she does this? What if she does that? And I go back out to my car, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like beating myself up at this point. I'm like, man, I should have kissed her, blah, blah, blah. And I put my car into gear, and
Oh, boy.
this lady with her dog walks in front of my car, and her dog starts shitting. And I'm late for a fantasy draft at this point, so like I just gotta beat myself up. I'm late. Now there's this dog pooping right in front of me, and there's like nowhere else for me to look. So like I'm sitting there, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go up there. So I throw my car in the park, turn it off, walk up to her apartment, and knock on the door. And she's like on the phone with somebody. She's like, hey, I gotta go. And I kissed her, and like, sorry,
Power moves only.
yeah. But it's because like I felt that fear, and I knew that like man, I just gotta do this. Like I knew it was important, even though I was afraid. Like, and at that point, like the stakes were even higher, because if I walk up now and try to kiss her and she turns me down, like then it's really embarrassing, because then I have to turn around to leave again, and that would suck. So I don't know. I think like The Alchemist, just listening to these signs, like when you fear something, you need to do it. Like there's a reason that you're thinking about this, and
But dude,
I think that's, like,
the thing
big
is,
lesson.
like, there's this book that I was reading called Gut Feelings, which actually explained why gut feelings aren't some crazy woo-woo pseudoscience. There's actually a lot of science to it, for those that are into that stuff. And it's basically, it's all to do with the way that your brain recognizes patterns. And then when a pattern is a bit off or it matches, that's what the gut, it's not that what it is exactly, but I'm going to give you like a really too long didn't read version. But essentially, as you go through life, your brain's constantly picking up patterns. This is, for example, like if you're walking in the forest and you see a snake, your body reacts without you even thinking, because it's so ingrained into you. And that's basically what a gut feeling is. It's just that there's a pattern, or there's something which, subconsciously your body's picked up on. So in your case, Nick, maybe it was, when you were on that date, for example, maybe the person, the chick was acting a certain way or whatever, and then it's like, subconsciously you picked up. So you sort of knew. So that's what I think, that people get really weirded out when you talk about like gut feelings and stuff. But it's it's nothing like, it's actually a lot of science to it. And there's a reason why there are these feelings and stuff happen. Sometimes, those feelings can lead us astray, but more often than not, they actually work out fine, because of the fact that your brain picks up subconscious cues as you're going throughout your day and your weeks and your months, whatever. And then when something comes along that fits that pattern, even if you don't realize it, that's what that gut feeling is. And just like, even on the other side of that thing, the other side is when there's something which doesn't fit in with the patterns that you picked up on, is when you get a bad feeling about something, and it always turns out to be right.
Yeah,
So,
you hear about that all the time. Like back during Thanksgiving, I got invited to play at this. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I got invited to play at this like big flag football Thanksgiving Day game thing. And I didn't really know the people, and I didn't really feel comfortable around them. And I don't know why, but I decided not to go. And sure enough, like later that day, there's like a shooting at the game, and 2 people got shot or something like that. And
Damn.
You hear about it all the time. Like people like, I think I'm just, I don't know, like not going to go out tonight, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that, or I am going to do it. And they do it, and all of a sudden, like they bypass something like terrible that could have been them.
Yeah.
It's weird that you do get these gut feelings, and sometimes it's not even that. I think sometimes like the whole fear thing that we talked about earlier, like you got to read these things for what they are. Like, I don't know. So I think that's my myth. I think that was the question originally. I don't know.
Yeah, the Alchemist, I like it. I know we're a little over an hour, so I will probably turn this into a 2-parter. And we sort of picked up steam there later in the show. But how do we tie this up? How do you tie up the importance of myths, mythology, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Joseph Campbell? How do we tie that up into something for people to be left with?
Yeah, read and watch more.
Right. Yeah, I was literally going to say the same thing. Like, just read more books. Like, and I think the thing is, I think people get so that they feel like they have to read a certain type. Like, oh, you have to read a self-development book because that's like the thing, right? But no, it's not. Just read fiction, read stories. Like, those things will teach you more about life than any self-development book will, because the majority of self-development books are literally just saying the same thing over and over again. And
right. And they're all terrible.
Right, and they are because firstly they're poorly written, for the most part, and it's just the same inane, pseudo positive, just think happy thoughts nonsense. Whereas if you read a fictional story, they tell you that, look, you have to face the dragon. It's not all gonna be unicorns and rainbows and happy thoughts. Like, you have to go out there and you have to go on this hero's journey, but you enjoy it because it's like, if the hero didn't descend into the underworld, it wouldn't make for a good story. Like, you wouldn't go to the cinema to watch Star Wars if you know,
if Luke just hung out on his moisture farm and was repairing robots. No, thank you.
Harry Potter just lived for seven books under his stairs. Like, like, what kind of boring story would that be? Just, you know, so it's just like, that's the reason we enjoy them, which is just funny to me, because we watch these movies and we get a massive thrill out of seeing these heroes do all these amazing things, but once we leave the theater room, we totally forget that we go through those things every day, but we just refuse the call. Yeah. So just accept the damn call. That's what I was saying.
And I think, like, to like give you one to piggyback off that, like, I think like everybody listen to this, you know, like, they've been listening to these four fucks on this podcast talk about dragons for the past hour and a half. Like, I think like what I would tell people is like, go slay one of those things. Like, all of us have something small, whether it be like a text that we haven't read because it stresses us out to read it, which I think a lot of people do, or a bill that you just haven't paid.
I just thought of Tanner there.
Yeah, because
what?
Like, maybe
F you, man.
Like, go, like, you have something small and insignificant that like stresses you out to even think about. Like, what I would say is, like, right now, go do that. And a lot of people be like, oh, okay, well, I'll do it later. No, fuck that. Pause this thing. Go do it. And most people won't. And if that's the case, well, you suck, and that's fine. But if you do go do it, this thing that stresses you out, you're immediately going to feel better. And think about that. Think about how you feel right now. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
All right, so Tanner, you have a way to wrap it up, or you?
I mean, seriously, man, like, the simplest thing I can say is just like, find stories that you love and find the ways that you identify with all of the characters in those stories. Because if you start thinking about it, like, you're gonna find a number of ways. You're gonna find ways that you identify with Harry and Voldemort, and you're going to find ways that you identify with Darth Vader and the Joker and Luke and Batman. And, you know, so, and then see what the hero does to handle their situation and apply that to whatever it is you're working on at the moment. Like, you know, whether it's moving to New York on December 31st and spending 2017 in, like, the grinder, or losing 50 pounds or whatever it is. Like, just fucking find those stories and throw yourself into them.
I agree with that, and I'll piggyback off that as I wrap it up. Same thing I tell my clients. One of the first things I ask is, who's your favorite superhero? Because the reason we connect with superheroes, the reason we connect with Harry Potter, the reason we connect with Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, I think we all connect with Han because who didn't want to be a suave motherfucker? And a scoundrel, and get the princess, duh. May she rest in peace. You know, we connect with these characters because we see ourselves in them. And that's why these archetypes and these stories and these myths are so important, and why I think you guys are right. We need to read more of those, get into more, you know, put the business book down, put the self-help book down, go read stories, because that's how we function as human beings. That's how we derive meaning is out of stories. because our brains do it every day. We tell ourselves stories. We tell ourselves the most negative, hellish story that we can, and make our dragon even bigger when it's just a rabbit. So go out there, like I said, read stories, find amazing artists making great work, and think about the characters that you connect with, why you connect with them. And even if they're an evil douchebag like Cersei Lannister,
Right.
Maybe there's a part of you that's kind of like, if I was the queen and shit had to get done, maybe that's just what I would do. Maybe that's what I would do.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great point. I think that there's a reason why everyone's attracted to certain characters in different books or stories or films. And the reason for that is because when you see that person, you see yourself in them. Mm-hmm. And I think that people shouldn't judge, right? They shouldn't judge, or feel like they should like a character just because their friends like you, or that's what society tells them they should like. Like, if you're a Slytherin, then you're a Slytherin, right? Like,
that's right, Slytherin.
That's right. Don't try and be a damn Gryffindor if you're a Slytherin. So it's like,
you have to, exactly.
So right, it's like, so you have to find but you have to also identify why that is, because that will tell you more about yourself than reading Deepak goddamn Chopra.
Awesome. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to this. It will be a 2-part, so this will end part 2. Thank you guys for coming on. We caught some fire there late in the show, so I hope it turned out well. But if you guys have questions about myths or heroes and why we love these stories, feel free to reach out to any of us on social media. You can get all that as well at sidequestfitness.com/podcast and find the 2-part Coach's Corner episode. And then you can get links to all of our social media as well. So, guys, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you guys again next month.
Step up and you gotta get it fitness. Host Rob at the moment and the quest is you gotta check it and wreck it. You're breaking personal records, and with the help of the guests you won't be guessing on the lessons. That's a +5 fierce. Got a low-key bamf right here. You wanna meet him, there's no better way to greet him than to strike a boss pose. Take a look into the mirror.